Hey everyone, did you know that over 90% of you watching right now haven't hit the subscribe button? If you're enjoying our content, take a second to subscribe, it's free. And it really helps us keep bringing you great stories every day. I should have known the moment she started drinking oat milk. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it was the first crack in the pattern. My wife, Ava, had been drinking half and half in her coffee for the 7 years we'd been married. She hated anything trendy, hated the taste of substitutes. But one day, without warning, I came home and found a carton of oat milk in the fridge. When I asked about it, she barely looked up from her phone and said, "Just felt like trying something new." That was it. No conversation, no explanation, no smile. Ava had always been spontaneous, but this wasn't that. This wasn't her usual spark of curiosity or creative rebellion. This was different. I didn't think much of it at the time. But when I look back now, that's where the story really begins. The subtle unraveling. The silence between us stretching a little longer each day. At first, I blamed myself. Work had been busy. I'd picked up extra hours at the firm, trying to meet deadlines and land a new client. I figured maybe I hadn't been as present. Maybe she just felt disconnected. So I adjusted. I started coming home earlier. Cooked more dinners. Took her out on Friday nights even when I was exhausted. Bought her flowers. Nothing flashy. Just showing up the way a husband should. She smiled, said thank you, even kissed my cheek. But her eyes never really settled on mine anymore. It was like Ava was there, but something inside her wasn't. One Saturday afternoon, we went to a friend's backyard party. Everyone was laughing, playing cornhole, sipping drinks under string lights. I watched Ava talk to a group of people I didn't know. Some she'd apparently met at her new job, marketing firm. She'd started there about 3 months prior, said it was time for a change. I remembered how her laugh used to sound when she was really happy, full, open, unafraid. This laugh? It was performative, like she was auditioning for something. A tall man stood beside her, confident, clean-cut, about 10 years older than the rest. Something about the way he touched her arm when he said something made my stomach go tight. She didn't pull away. She didn't introduce me either. I didn't say anything that night, just drove us home in silence while she scrolled through her phone. When we got back, she walked inside without waiting. No kiss, no thanks for driving. Just her figure disappearing down the hallway, into the bathroom, door shutting behind her. I stood in the kitchen for a long time that night, staring at the half-empty carton of oat milk. That's when I started paying attention, not in the jealous husband checking phone kind of way. I didn't want to become that man. But in the way a detective listens to footsteps in an empty house, the signs added up fast. Late nights at team meetings. A second phone number she claimed was just for work. Random mood swings. Carefully hidden receipts. A subtle shift in her perfume. Something sharper. I didn't ask questions. I watched, waited. Until one night I got my answer without even looking for it. She came home late, past midnight. Her hair was slightly out of place. She smelled of cologne that wasn't mine. Her eyes didn't meet mine when I opened the door for her. "You're up," she said flatly. I couldn't sleep. She didn't respond, just brushed past me into the bedroom. I followed. She stood at her side of the bed, arms crossed, staring at the floor. "I was with coworkers," she said before I could speak. "You don't have to be weird about it." I didn't ask. She looked at me then. A flash of something in her expression. Defensiveness? Guilt? Or worse, indifference. "You always just assume," she snapped. I didn't reply, because I didn't need to. I saw it in her eyes. She was lying, not just about that night, about everything. A few days later, I confirmed what I already knew. Her boss, Nick Delaney, married, 2 kids, sleek car, firm handshake, and a hotel room registered under his company card that had Ava's name listed as a guest on multiple occasions. I didn't confront her, not yet, because I wasn't ready to explode. I wanted clarity. I wanted to know why. So I waited, and the waiting gave me answers. I checked our shared cloud storage. Something she'd forgotten was still linked. Among the usual photos, screenshots of work stuff, yoga poses, were 2 short videos, one of a rooftop dinner, one of her sitting in a hotel bed laughing at someone just off camera. The voice in the background? Nick's. She looked happy in that video, happier than I'd seen her in months, but not in the way that hurt most. It wasn't passion or lust or whatever books like to dramatize. It was comfort, familiarity. She wasn't experimenting. She'd already moved on. I think part of me broke then, not from anger, but from the realization that I'd been fighting for a marriage she'd already buried in silence. And yet, I still didn't confront her, because by now, something else had settled in. A kind of quiet I didn't know I had in me. It wasn't weakness, it was strategy. I began making plans, not for revenge in the classic sense, no scorched earth, no shouting matches, but something better. I met with a lawyer, one who specializes in clean exits. We mapped out everything: assets, accounts, ownership. I learned just how entangled our lives had become over the years. But I also learned how to quietly begin untangling it all. I changed the passwords to accounts she didn't even remember she had access to. Canceled joint cards, separated our finances inch by inch. Meanwhile, I played the part. Cooked dinner, cleaned up, asked about her day. She never noticed, because Nick was clearly giving her all the attention I once did. She stopped wearing her ring. One day she left it on the bathroom counter and didn't bother picking it up. I kept it in my drawer, not because I wanted it, but because I wanted to remember. Not her, but the man I'd been, because that man was gone, and the one standing in his place? He was done asking why. He was ready. The final straw came on a Tuesday. She came home late. Again. Same perfume. Same disinterest. Same faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. I was sitting at the kitchen table. She walked in, dropped her bag, and said, "I think we should take a break." I looked up, calm, steady. "Already taken care of," I said. She blinked. "What?" I slid a folder across the table. Clean. Labeled. Inside were the divorce papers, already drafted, property divided fairly, accounts itemized, everything she would need to walk out clean. Her face went pale. What is this?" "You wanted a break," I said. "I gave you a way out. You can't just—" "I can," I said. And I did. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, stunned. Because for the first time in years, she realized she didn't control the story anymore. And that was just the beginning. Ava didn't say anything for a long time. She just stood there, holding the folder like it was a foreign object. Like divorce had always been a theoretical thing other people did, not something she'd be handed across a quiet kitchen table by the man she once promised forever. "You're serious," she finally said. I nodded. She looked down at the papers, then up at me. Her expression flickered. Confusion, disbelief, maybe even insult. "You really just had these ready?" I didn't respond. Because yes, I did. While she was out chasing whatever thrill she thought would replace a steady home and a loyal husband, I was building my exit. I'd already opened a separate account, already found a temporary place, already met with our accountant and restructured what needed to be restructured. Everything was done. She was the only one who hadn't noticed. "You're acting like this is just business," she said. "Because it is now." She sat down slowly, the folder still in her hands. "You don't even want to talk about it?" I looked at her. For the first time in months, I really looked. And what I saw wasn't the woman I married. It was someone who had rewritten the story in her head so many times, she no longer knew what was real. "We stopped talking a long time ago, Ava," I said. She flinched. Then something strange happened. She smiled. But it wasn't warm. It was sharp. "So, this is you, finally growing a spine." I didn't answer. Because it didn't matter. She stood, dropped the folder on the table like it meant nothing. "Fine. You want to be cold? I can be colder." And then she left. Just like that. No bags packed. No dramatic exit. She just walked out and drove away. I sat there for a while, then stood, grabbed the folder, and placed it in the drawer next to her wedding ring. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I called the lawyer and told him to file. Ava didn't contact me for 4 days, and then she did. The first message was clipped. "Let's talk." I didn't respond. She sent another. "We need to figure this out." Still nothing from me, because I wasn't going to be baited into a conversation I no longer owed her. Instead, I followed the plan. I moved into the temporary apartment I'd signed the lease for. Clean space, simple, quiet. I canceled the lease on her car. It was under my name. She hadn't made a payment in over a year. I didn't leave a note, she'd figure it out. I notified the utilities of our separation, transferred the house into a legal dispute file. She couldn't refinance or sell without my signature, and she knew that. Her silence didn't last. The 5th day, she showed up. I was walking out of my building when I saw her waiting beside her car, parked illegally, hazard lights flashing like some kind of emergency declaration. She walked up fast, heels clicking. "We need to talk," she said. I looked at her, calm, collected. "You're trespassing," I said. She laughed, disbelieving. "You're joking." I wasn't. "I'm not the villain here," she said, stepping closer. I said nothing. "I made mistakes, fine. But you don't just erase someone you were married to." I nodded once. "You're right. But you already did." That stunned her into silence. She crossed her arms. "So, that's it? Just gone? No fight?" "No, no fight," I said. "Because I'm done fighting for someone who stopped choosing me a long time ago." For the first time since this started, I saw the walls she'd built around herself begin to shake. "You think I don't regret it?" she said, quieter now. "You think I didn't wonder what I was doing?" "You did it anyway." She didn't answer. And then came the part I expected. "I ended things with him," she said. I looked at her. "That wasn't part of my plan." She frowned. "I'm trying, okay?" I stepped back slowly. "And I'm done trying." She looked away, blinking too quickly. "I thought you'd be more hurt," she said finally. "More, I don't know, angry." "I was," I said, "but I had to choose, anger or healing. I couldn't do both." She didn't speak, and I didn't invite her in. She left. This time for real. I thought that would be the end, but it wasn't, because regret doesn't like to leave quietly. Over the next few weeks, Ava started reaching out more. Texts, emails, a handwritten note left at the door, each one softer than the last, each one trying to claw back a little bit of the life she'd thrown away. "I miss you. I remember the way you always folded my sweaters. No one else ever did that. I can't sleep." I didn't answer a single one, because here's the thing most people don't understand about revenge. It's not about payback. It's about presence. Showing up for yourself after someone else walked away. Choosing your own peace, not theirs. Ava was unraveling slowly, and I watched from a distance as she tried to rebuild a version of herself that didn't include deception. But she was too late. I had already rebuilt mine. I spent more time outdoors, started running again, met friends for lunch, reconnected with the parts of myself I'd buried under compromise. The house eventually sold, split evenly. I let her keep most of the furniture, not because I was being generous, because I didn't want a single piece of her energy in the new place I was building. One day, out of nowhere, I got a message from her friend, someone we used to be close to. She said, "Ava's not doing well." I replied simply, "I hope she finds her way." Because that's all there was left to say. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was free. And freedom, I've learned, doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a quiet apartment, a peaceful morning, and the realization that you no longer flinch when your phone lights up. That's where I was. And where I was going? That was entirely up to me now. A few months passed. Long enough for the seasons to start changing. The air turned cooler, lighter. People smiled more on the sidewalks. Life was moving again. And I was too. I'd signed a lease on a new place. Not temporary this time. Something I chose because it felt like a fresh page. Sunlight streamed in through big windows in the morning. The space was open, quiet, untouched by memory. Everything inside was mine, chosen, earned, free of the past. I didn't think about Ava much anymore. Not in a bitter way, just not at all. She became like an old song you used to hum before realizing you'd outgrown it. a familiar rhythm that no longer stirred anything. Then, one evening, I came home to find her sitting on the steps outside my building. The sky was purple with sunset. She wore a thick coat, but her posture made her look small, like someone waiting for a train that had already left the station. I stopped a few feet away. She stood. "I thought you might slam the door if I knocked," she said with a forced smile. I didn't say anything. I just wanted to talk. "I think we've said everything," I replied. She looked away. "Maybe, but I need to say it again." I didn't invite her in. We stood there in the soft fading light, cars passing behind her, the world moving on around a conversation that should have ended long ago. "I was selfish," she said, "and I knew it. I told myself you wouldn't notice, that you were too busy, too comfortable, that maybe if I just kept one foot in and one foot out, you'd never leave." She let out a small breath. "But you did. And you didn't scream. You didn't fight. You didn't give me the big dramatic ending I expected." I stayed quiet. She laughed, dry and hollow. "That was the part that broke me," she said. "You didn't come chasing." I looked at her then. Really looked. There was regret in her face, maybe even sorrow. But there was something else too. Confusion. The kind that comes when someone realizes they no longer hold power in a space they used to command. "I came back," she said softly. I nodded. "You did. But I didn't ask you to." She blinked, surprised. "I don't say that to hurt you," I continued, "but to tell the truth. Because this version of me, the one standing here, he doesn't belong to that old life anymore." She bit her lip, eyes searching mine. "I miss the way you used to hold space for me," she said. "Like I was always safe in your presence." I nodded. "And I miss the way you used to choose me, before I became background noise." Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "Ava," I said gently, "you left long before I handed you those papers. You just didn't have the courage to admit it." She looked away. "You called it a break," I added, "but I called it the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "Of peace, of clarity, of becoming the kind of man who doesn't wait around to be someone's second choice." She let the silence hang. I think part of her wanted to cry, but she didn't. "I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted, and that was the most honest thing she'd said in years. I nodded slowly. "I hope you figure it out," I said, "but I can't be part of that story." "Why not?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "Because I already wrote mine," I said, "and you're not in this chapter." She looked down, then stepped back. "I thought maybe," she said, "maybe we could try again. Start over." I shook my head. "I've already started." She blinked quickly. The weight of my words seemed to land somewhere deep. "I don't hate you," I added, "and I don't want you to hate yourself, but coming back doesn't erase what leaving did." For a moment, neither of us spoke, and then she nodded. "I guess I had to try." "I understand." She turned to leave, but then she stopped halfway down the steps. "Was there ever someone else?" she asked without turning back. "After me?" I thought about it. About the kind woman I'd met at the bookstore downtown, the one who smiled with her eyes and didn't flinch at silence. We'd gone on a few walks, talked, laughed, but it was early. No expectations, just honesty. "There's someone I'm getting to know," I said truthfully. Ava nodded once, almost to herself. "Good," she said, and then she left. This time I didn't watch her walk away. I went upstairs, made tea, sat in the soft light of my new living room. The silence around me felt full, not hollow. Later that week, I boxed up the last few things I'd kept from our marriage. A framed photo, a shared recipe book, a scarf she'd left behind. I donated them, not out of spite, but because I was done holding space for ghosts. The new life I'd built wasn't flashy, but it was mine. Slow mornings, clean counters, honest conversations with people who showed up. I didn't tell my friends about her visit, didn't post cryptic messages or long reflections. I simply lived. And one day, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about Ava in weeks. That was the real victory. Not that she came back, but that I didn't need her to. She had become a closed door in a hallway full of open ones. And the man I'd become? He walked past that door without stopping. Not to prove a point, not to punish, but because forward was the only direction that made sense. And peace? Peace was finally home.